Hi gentlemen, so in this video I'll be looking at the last part of reproduction in human and we'll be focusing on HIV, which is the virus that will cause AIDS. So we'll see how the virus infects our body cells and manifests into a disorder. As I went through quite quickly in classroom, I would like to do a recap on the slides that I've gone through. So before we go into talking about HIV, alright, I would like to give a broad overview on STI, sometimes also known as STD. Okay, basically it's a group of disorder, infection that can be caused either by bacteria or virus. And one such virus that can cause a STD, it's HIV, which we'll be focusing on in this lesson over here. And you need to know what is the mode of transmission, as this was covered in chapter 8 when we were talking about infectious diseases. So, STIs are also infectious diseases. Why is that so? Number one, it is caused by a pathogen. And number two, it can be transmitted from one person to another. So how is STI transmitted? Three common ways is through semen from infected male, vaginal fluid from infected female, or blood from an infected person. So HIV stands for Human Immunodeficiency Virus, which means that your immune system is being suppressed. We'll look into how and which process does the virus suppress in a bit. So HIV attacks white blood cells in particular, and particularly lymphocytes. So I'll pause over here to ask this question. What is the main role of lymphocyte in protecting yourself? AIDS, which stands for Acquired Immune Deficiency Syndrome, is an advanced stage of HIV infection. So HIV will lead to AIDS, but not all who have HIV infection will have AIDS. This is because AIDS may only develop at a later stage that sometimes could be as short as 1 month, but sometimes as long as 5 years or 10 years. So the virus is found inside the person, but it did not manifest into a disorder, which is AIDS. So I write it down over here. Not all HIV individuals have AIDS, right? But all who have AIDS are infected by HIV. So let's watch a little animation on how virus attacks your body cells. Viral particle in the video finds its way into our body cells. How does it invade? It will first have to find the right attachment.
Contact.
To bind to the
This
cells.
is the moment when infection begins. How does infection happen? You see the tiny shapes there on the virus particle's surface? They seem like random blobs. In reality, they are tiny keys, proteins that have evolved to the perfect shape and size, enabling them to unlock these receptors on the surface of this lung cell. Like a smile and a handshake, the virus deceives this lung cell and is welcomed in, where it will command the cell to make more virus particles.
Right, so in the video you saw how a viral particle invades a lung cell and different viral particle invade different body cells. So before I talk about how it invades the lymphocyte, let me just pull back to lymphocytes and phagocytes. So our body cells not only contains red blood cells that carry oxygen, it also contains white blood cells that help us to fight infection and also platelets that help to control clotting. So this important point about white blood cell came from chapter 6 on transport in human. So, in a healthy individual, our lymphocytes are able to produce antibodies. Alright, so apart from learning how to identify foreign particles, it also secretes antibodies that will help to destroy bacteria as well as neutralize the toxins that are being produced. So lymphocytes have many different functions, at least 4 that we can see in this slide alone. Number 1, recognition. Number 2, production of antibody. Number 3, destroy bacteria. And number 4, neutralize toxin. Right? This is information that we have learned in chapter 6, transport in human. So, when a HIV virus attacks our lymphocytes, lymphocytes cannot produce antibodies, and this is why infection spread so quickly in HIV-infected people. Because without antibodies production, this lowers our immunity. Allowing the virus to make multiple copies of itself using human as the host. And this is how infection spreads very quickly. I hope you copy down all these little pointers as I'm going through the slides to enhance your understanding. So we stopped here in the previous lesson, and these are the 6 common signs and symptoms of AIDS. So if the HIV virus in the body multiplies in number and manifests throughout our body cells, such an infected individual will be more prone to having AIDS. And some signs and symptoms include pneumonia, which is presence of water in the lungs, as you can see. Secondly, Kaposi sarcoma. So what it is exactly is actually a form of skin cancer. Severe diarrhea as well, brain infection, chronic fever, as well as tuberculosis. So you can see how HIV starts off by invading our immune system, which is tightly linked to many other body systems as well, such as our respiratory system, resulting in pneumonia and tuberculosis, our skin, another very important organ, severe diarrhea due to our digestive system being infected, right? Brain infection, the brain as well, Chronic fever because immune system is down. So you can see that how one virus affects one system in our body and can very quickly also bring down other body systems and organs. So how is HIV usually transmitted? You can see 4 different modes of transmission labeled in this slide over here. And I would like you to think, for each mode of transmission, what is the best way to prevent and control? Let's start with the first one. Sexual intercourse with infected person. People with multiple partners, sexual partners, tends to have a higher chance of contracting STDs, especially if they do not do frequent health checkup and screening for the detection of such bacteria and viruses. So what is the best way to prevent? Of course, to be faithful and stick to one sexual partner, or being very honest to others about your sexual history as well. It is necessary to do regular screening in order to keep your health in check. Secondly, sharing of hypodermic needle with infected person. This usually happens, alright, when people do tattoos or piercing in unregulated places that do not maintain high level of hygiene. So the chance of infection is very high if the needle is contaminated with infected blood. So what is the best way to prevent and control? Using sterile equipment, especially during piercing, tattooing, or even acupuncture. Blood transfusion with infected person may happen if checks and balance are not put in place during blood screening. So it's important to make sure that when you receive any medical treatment, any treatment that requires the use of needles, that you pay attention to make sure that they are not contaminated with blood. HIV infection can also spread from mother to fetus during pregnancy. And also breastfeeding as well. So how to prevent? Right? Use of condoms to prevent the spread of STD, but it's also not a very safe method if sexual partners are not honest with each other about their sexual history. So what are other ways to prevent HIV? You just have to remember the ABCs. What are these? A stands from abstinence. So abstain from sexual activities. It's one way to protect oneself from contracting STDs without knowing. Number 2, be faithful. Being faithful to one sexual partner reduces the risk of contracting STIs. Some of these STIs do not manifest immediately, and if people have multiple sexual partners, this increases the risk of transmission from one to another without even knowing. Some may have already contracted, but they do not see any signs and symptoms and deem themselves as healthy individuals. C. Condom use. Though it is not 100% reliable, it is also the next most effective method after abstinence. Alright, so the use of condom prevents the mixing of bodily fluid, which is capable of transmitting HIV. Alright, D. Don't share. Items such as syringes, needles, and razors, toothbrush, and towels may come in contact with contaminated blood and other bodily fluid, which is capable to transmit the virus as well. Always make sure that needles are sterilized, or insist on using single-use disposable instrument if you like to do tattooing, piercing, or acupuncture. So let's check your understanding by looking at the following statements. Will all the statements lead to one contracting HIV, please pause the video right now and spend the next few minutes to look through on your own before continuing to watch the video to check your answer. Let's start with the first statement. Kissing and bitten by a HIV-infected individual. Will it transmit HIV? The answer is no. Alright, it does not transmit through saliva. Alright, so it does not transmit through saliva, even though saliva is a bodily fluid. Number 2, sexual contact with a HIV positive individual will definitely result in the spread of HIV. Saliva, tears, and sweat. These are the 3 bodily fluids that will not transmit HIV. Blood-sucking insect. It's also not capable of transmitting HIV. Sharing contaminated intravenous needles will increase the chance of HIV definitely. Using the same toilet seat as in the infected individual, will that lead to the spread of HIV? The answer is no. But if the blood of an infected individual somehow is left on the toilet bowl seat and someone who is healthy sits on it and it comes into contact with the person who may have a cut on his butt or his thigh, and the contaminated blood comes into contact with the healthy individual, it may, likely to increase the risk of HIV. So be very careful when you're using the public toilet, especially if you have any wound or any open cuts. Make sure that they do not come into contact on such surfaces. Next, swimming in the same pool. Will it result in the transmission of HIV? The answer is no. Alright, next, breastfeeding from mother to baby will increase the chance and likely to result in HIV infection. Next, touching, hugging, or shaking hands. So there's skin-to-skin contact. This will not result in infection, HIV infection. So skin. Eating in the same restaurant. No. Alright? Sitting next to someone with HIV will also not result in the risk of infection because HIV does not transmit via airborne particles. Infected mother to fetus during pregnancy or birth. Alright, why during birth? Okay, because the baby has to pass through via the vaginal canal and will definitely come into contact with vaginal fluid. As a result, it will lead to HIV infection in the baby. And lastly, direct blood transfusion from HIV positive individual will definitely result in HIV infection. So that marks the end of the entire chapter. Please review your notes again and complete the checkpoint questions, and I will go through them when I see you the next time. That's all. Have a great week ahead.